Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. I am your host, Ronald Cabang, also known as UCapper on SportsMemo.com and at U_Capper on Twitter. We're going to be breaking down three top games from today's big slate. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about some promos really quick. And we have a few good ones, actually. We have the $2 capper, $2 Tuesday cappers are still live. Who are they? Joe D'Amico, JM Sports are available for the $2 Tuesday plays. We also have the $99 college football bowl games still available as well. Just $99 up to the college football playoffs there. And then one more to talk about, the 3-day pass for $39. And that is using the promo code NY39. That's 3-day all access pass for $39 using promo code NY39. You can use that for any of your favorite sports memo cappers there. So three great promos to talk about. Sorry, to use over at sportsmemo.com. With that said, let's get the panel here started and get the three games started. Man, Moneyline Matt and Nick Parsons. This is the same panel we had last Friday. I'll tell you guys, this week has been rough for me, like real rough. Hopefully, we get to turn it around here today. I want to close it out at least this week on a strong note, or the year on a strong note. Yeah, everything that I'm looking at, I have really good reasons why I take them. They're just, not bouncing my way. Hopefully, you guys are having better luck. How are you guys doing this week?
Go ahead, Matt. Okay, so this week's been actually pretty solid for me. But the way me and you kind of do things a little different. I'm more of a prop guy, and you kind of do spreads and over unders, And it's just been one of those weeks where the props have been kind of going my way. I'm 6-0 the past 2 days. I'm 8-3 on the week with the best bets. We're now 7-1 over the last 8. And again, I usually kind of go with the prop side of things. And this week in particular, there's just been some really good spots for a lot of like the top guys, like Giannis going off earlier last night with Donovan Mitchell, stuff like that. So really pinpointing some good spots right now. But again, I've been kind of handling more of the prop side of things. Tonight, I do like a couple spreads as well. But either way, excited to break down this card with everyone.
Yeah, how you been doing, Nick?
And just like you, Ronald, I do mainly over under and against the spread for the entire game. And I would say definitely this has been a difficult year overall. There's been a lot of parity in the league right from the beginning. Recently, I lost yesterday. I had Cleveland, but recently my picks have been a lot better. And so definitely looking forward to 2023 and finishing up the second half strong.
Definitely. I think it's one of those things where you go on like a hot streak, then a cold streak, and a hot streak, and then a cold streak. And when you're in that cold streak, you just feel like crap. It just sucks. And you don't like it's tough, but that's when you want to be. That's when you want to talk about it the most, right? You don't want to be the guy that's like, I only win games. You want to talk about your losses, and
absolutely.
We want to be transparent in that way. And it has been a tough week. So hopefully we can get it. We can get back rolling here.
Yeah, and to your point real quick, it's so important to be transparent in this business. We don't go out and win every single game. And that's one thing I always appreciate about Sports Memo, about Wager Talk. There's ups and downs to this game. If anyone tells you they're winning every single time, they're straight up lying. And, we're here for the good times. We're here for the bad. And we're ready to turn the tide and start winning some games here. So let's break this down.
For sure. We're 100%. In the trenches each and every day grinding out these winners. So, yeah.
Exactly. Our money's on it too. So we don't do it either. You know what I'm saying? Like you hit me up and you're like, shitty pick. I'm like, well, thanks, man. No shit.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's get into the slate here. We got the Wolves and Bucks. The first game up. The Wolves, they're on a 4-game losing streak. They are coming off a 1-point loss to the Pelicans as 6.5-point dogs. This is the last game of a 4-game road trip for them, and also the first leg of back-to-back road to home games. They have the Pistons tomorrow. The Bucks, they're on a 4-game losing streak, and that's pretty surprising to me, just how great they were playing right before that. You know what I mean? So they're coming off an OT loss to the Bulls on Wednesday. This is their first game of a 3-game homestand, so maybe they get right here at home. They are coming off 5 straight road games, and that could have been why they were struggling, right? We did talk about how bad they were offensively on the road, but towards the end of that road trip, their defense started to struggle. So yeah, we're gonna see how they are here on the first game home. From an injury perspective, Cat and Prince are out. Kyle Anderson is questionable for the Wolves. He hasn't played since December 18th. The Bucks without Middleton and Drew is doubtful tonight. This is a tough one here. It's hard not to back the Bucks here after so many losses in a row, and they're going to be at home. But this is the first game home after a long road trip, which is typically a spot that we or I like to fade. So far this season, in their first home game following at least 3 road games, they're 0-1 straight up, 0-1 ATS, but 1-0 to the over. They lost outright they lost outright 106-121 to the Hawks that game. And then, like I said earlier, no Middleton, no Drew. Can we back these guys in this spot here? Nick, let's start with you.
Ronald, you and I look at games very similar to each other from a situational standpoint. Absolutely. I mean, these teams have been playing to several high-scoring games of late. But for me, I'm looking at this game. I think we're going to expect I think this number is a little bit high. I think we can expect a defensive affair. As you pointed out, Minnesota's off that 119-118 heartbreaking loss to New Orleans there. It's seen the total go over in 3 straight. But the Wolves have actually seen the total go under in 5 of their last 6 after playing to 3 or more straight overs in a row. Minnesota, you talked about it. This is the first game of a back-to-back. It returns home for a much more winnable game versus Detroit tomorrow. So the visitors, I mean, could they get caught looking ahead here in the second half to that game and just go through the motions in the second half? I think that's a very real possibility. But as you pointed out, Milwaukee is missing some players. And so I don't want to lay the points here. I do indeed feel that the best way to approach this particular game is on the total. The Bucks, as good as they have been, they only average 112.6 points per game. That ranks 17th. They're off that 119-113 OT home loss to the Bulls. And so I just think that they're going to be eager to double down on the defensive end here. They don't want to see anything like that. And so for me, I think that I would approach it, I would take the under.
That's a good look there. You would probably think they struggle here offensively in that first game back home. Matt, what are you thinking here? Are you seeing something on the side or total, or maybe the prop side?
Yeah, so I'm actually seeing more of the prop side here. I actually do. If there was one way I was going to look, it would have to be the Milwaukee Bucks for me. I don't know if I'll be confident enough to get to the window with it. But, this is a spot where Giannis and the Bucks have lost 4 games in a row, to your point, 22-12 on the season. And it really does feel like kind of a must-win situation this early in the season. And as for the Wolves, they're kind of in a similar spot too. This is a 16-19 team on the road, lost 4 games in a row. And again, a spot where both teams really need a win. And again, this is going to be a spot where Giannis is going to have crazy usage, absolutely through the roof once again. And we called that spot last time. We called the Giannis over. We called the Giannis 35 points. We called the Giannis 40 points because it was a big usage spot. No Drew Holiday, no Chris Middleton. Opportunity and volume often turns into hits. And that's what we're looking for here as well. But this one is a little different. Giannis's PRA, points, rebounds, assists, has gone north to like 52.5. And that's just something I can't back. That's way too high for me. But something I can back in this matchup is Giannis assists at over 6.5. Okay. If you watch the last game, Bucks versus Bulls, Giannis Antetokounmpo had seven assists. He hit this line, but he had 5 assists at halftime. All right. And if you go and, peel that onion a little bit further, this Milwaukee Bucks team shot 9 for 44 from the 3-point line. And a lot of those were assisted by Giannis, or I should say those misses would have been assisted by Giannis. Giannis should have honestly had around 12 assists last game. So now that they're facing the Minnesota Timberwolves, he had a 45-point, 22 rebounds, 7 assists a game. You have to imagine he is going to get all of the attention. You have to imagine they're going to try and force the ball out of his hands with double teams. And then in addition to that, Giannis is someone who drives to the basket. He gets a quick double, and he's pretty good at those quick passes, the quick bounce passes, even a short alley-oop to someone like Brook Lopez. So for me, I think by far the best look in this game is actually the Giannis Antetokounmpo over 6.5 assists. This is something that I grabbed last night around -118, and now it's crept stepped up to closer to minus 130. So this is something by tip-off. It could be around 7.5 assists. So if this is something you like as well, I would grab this now. For a side, once again, if I had to go one way, it would be the Milwaukee Bucks. But I really, really do like the look of the Giannis Antetokounmpo assist tonight. There will be no Jrue Holiday most likely again. Chris Middleton will for sure be out. So again, all that usage, all that opportunity, the volume, it's going to be there once again. So I'll back Giannis here with that 6.5 assists.
What do you? Another player prop that I was looking at as well was actually Bobby Portis. I think the last 2 games without Jrue and Middleton, he hit for 20 points, 8 rebounds, and then 20 points and 11 rebounds the last 2 games. And in 6 games without Jrue and Chris Middleton, he's gotten double doubles in 4 of them. And I looked at the double double today. It was actually plus. I think it was like plus 130, 140 around there. What are your thoughts on that one? Or maybe his points rebounds, because I think that was over 23.5.
Yeah, I think with Bobby Portis, I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize with the Milwaukee Bucks is, to your point, when Chris Middleton goes down or when Jrue Holiday goes down, Bobby Portis really does kind of become that number 2 option. There are some times where they insert him into that starting lineup. I think they try to avoid that just because then you're running a Bobby Portis, Giannis, Brook Lopez lineup, and it's just – it's probably a slower lineup, but what they do is they have him come off the bench. He'll get some run without Giannis Antetokounmpo on top of that. So when Giannis is on the bench, they like to have Brook Lopez in. And when Brook Lopez is in, when Giannis is out, that's his time to shine. He's in there to take those shots and against a team like the Timberwolves, they don't have someone who matches up very well with him. He stretches the floor on top of that. He's a solid outside shooter. And for the power forward position, he's actually one of the best rebounders throughout the entire NBA. So for the Timberwolves, with Rudy Gobert down there, he's just not someone that I have any faith in right now. So actually, I've been going against him and actually taking some people for rebound props, stuff like that. And when you have someone like Gobert, you have to think too, Brook Lopez boxes him out so he can't get those rebounds. Then you allow someone like Giannis to come in, someone like Bobby Portis to come in. So I actually think it's a better day for power forwards or small forwards to come in and get rebounds. So to your point, I think that would be a really good look tonight.
Awesome. All right. Well, next up, we have a really good game here. The Sixers and the Pelicans. Sixers are coming off a loss to the Wizards as 4.5-point favorites. Prior to that, they won 8 straight games and covered 7 of those. So recent form, I feel like they're still pretty good here, even though they're coming off of a loss. This is their 3rd game of a 4-game road trip, though. This is also the first leg of back-to-back road games. They do have a little bit of a rest advantage. They haven't played since Tuesday. The Pelicans, they're on a 4-game winning streak. This is the last game of a 3-game homestand, and also the first leg of back-to-back games for them as well. They have the Grizzlies tomorrow in Memphis, so they're traveling out there. The Pelicans, they're going to be without Ingram. Larry Nance is doubtful. Herb Jones is actually looking like a true game time decision. He's been missing a few games here. The Sixers, it looks like they're going to be finally fully healthy for the first time in a long time. Maxey is probable on the injury report, so he should be good to go. He hasn't played since November 18th. He's likely the reason why that we've seen the line move. I think it moved like 3 points or something like that. And also the total went up as well from opening. This is, to me, Matt, we talk about like the injury replacement theory. This is like the opposite of it, right? When a key player comes back, especially someone who handles the ball primarily, it kind of affects the chemistry that they have going on. Could we see a spot where, the Sixers struggle here in the first game with him back? I mean, we've seen it recently with the Grizzlies, right? Like Bane came back and then they lose 4 out of 5 or something like that. They're trying to integrate him back into the offense, and this just seems like a spot here where they might struggle offensively. What do you guys think, Matt? Let's start with you here.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you here. The 76ers travel on the road to face off against the Pelicans, and this is a spot now where the 76ers are 20-13 overall, coming off a loss after winning 8 games in a row. So they were very hot. Now they're inserting Tyrese Maxey back into that lineup. And as for the Pelicans, they're 22-12, have won three games in a row, and once again will be without Brandon Ingram, potentially without Herb Jones and Larry Nance Jr. And to your point, Ron, I am fading the 76ers with Tyrese Maxey coming back into that lineup. This will be an official play for me. This is just a strategy that I like. You know, me and you have discussed it many times on this show. And when I see opportunity to run it, I do, because Tyrese Maxey is a high usage guy. He's a high volume guy. He's someone who likes to pick up the pace for the 76ers as well on top of that. And Joel Embiid sometimes isn't exactly a pace guy. So for me, I am going to be fading the 76ers in this spot, but it's not just because of Tyrese Maxey. You know, when Joel Embiid gets matched up with an actual big body 5, those are some spots where I do tend to fade him because, you know, it's just someone who can give him a little more difficulty, slow him down. And, you know, this guy is Jonas Valanciunas. You know, Jonas Valanciunas is one of the bigger centers throughout the NBA. He's a 7-foot center. He's a big body. He's strong, powerful. He can give it to you on the offensive end as well. So it's going to force Joel Embiid to defend on top of that, something he really doesn't like to do all that much. So for me, if you're slowing down Joel Embiid and then you have someone like Tyrese Maxey getting inserted back into that lineup, someone who hasn't played, there's not a lot of chemistry, not a lot of synergy, and, you know, he's someone who is going to get his usage. He's going to get his shots. You know, you got to get him going at some point, and you want to start him early. But for me, I think that messes everything up. And because of that, I'm going to back the Pelicans here. You know, this is a Pelicans team that has experience without guys like Brandon Ingram. They play as a collective unit. They have a very good bench on top of that. So, yeah, I'm with the Pelicans at home here, and I think this is going to be an official play tonight.
That's a good look there. What are your thoughts on this one, Nick? Like I said earlier, I think both of these teams are in the first leg of back-to-back games, and I looked at them in these spots. The Sixers are actually 5-0 straight up and against the spread in that spot, and then the Pelicans, they're 4-0 straight up in that spot. So both of these teams, looking at, you know, with the first leg of back-to-back games, it looks like they play well. But that factor there is, you know, how well is this Sixers team gonna play with Maxey coming back? Or what are your thoughts on this one?
You know, they say great minds think alike, and we all do totally agree on this one. And there's one point right at the end I'll get to here, which you guys didn't touch on there. But actually, my best bet for the show here is on the total in this game, and so I'll steer clear of that and stick to a side. I also like the Pelicans in this spot. I mean, we have two really good, consistent teams here. Philadelphia 20-13, just 6-8 on the road. 76ers only average 111.7 points per game. That ranks 21st. You guys pointed out Philadelphia has a much more winnable game tomorrow against Oklahoma City. There's a really good chance it could get caught looking ahead here. So it has the easier game tomorrow. And then after the Oklahoma City game, it actually has a rematch with the Pelicans at home on January 2nd. And so it's like an immediate rematch coming up here. Philadelphia did lose 116-111 to Washington in its latest game. But yeah, New Orleans is coming off that 119-118 home victory. It's 1-4 straight. At some point, that streak's going to end. I just don't think it'll be here. New Orleans, yeah, I just think, you know, Philadelphia, it will get caught looking ahead here. That Maxey factor that you guys were talking about was not something that I had even known, but yes, that is something when they're trying to work new players back into the offense. Teams will often. I mean, that's a difficult thing for teams because they got to give these guys a chance. And I mean, that could absolutely happen here. So yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm with the Pelicans. And just because, you know, I just think that they're going to double down here at home, knowing that they have to face Philadelphia in just a few days on the road.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Yeah, for me, this one's going to be a tough one. Like I said, this is one spot here where I typically like to fade players coming back, key players coming back. And like I mentioned earlier, the same thing happened with Bane. Same thing happened with other key players that come back after missing a long period of time. This is a spot where I probably look towards the Pelicans here. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to the window with it, but, you know, that's just one thing that we've noticed so far this season and in previous seasons, to be honest, is that both the fact that if a key player is missing or a key player comes back after a long period of time, that chemistry just falls off for a little bit, and then they finally get it back together maybe a few games in. So we'll see how that goes here. Next up, we have the Jazz and Kings. The Jazz are on a 2-game losing streak. They are playing the last of a 3-game road trip They've been traveling though for 7 straight games. They had a 1-game homestand before that, and before that they had a 3-game road trip. So 6 road games in the last 7 games. Travel fatigue could play a factor in this one. This is the first leg of back-to-back road to home games as well. They host the Heat at home tomorrow. The Kings are coming off a 1-point win over the Nuggets. That was a pretty big come from behind victory too. They were actually down double digits in the fourth. This is the 3rd game in 4 nights as well, so fatigue could play a factor in here as well. Sabonis and Fox played heavy minutes in that fourth quarter versus the Nuggets. I mean, I think both games against the Nuggets, they really played tough. Those were 2 tough games for them. I think the first game that they lost, they had a really good chance of winning it. They kind of let it go in that fourth quarter or in the second half there. From an injury perspective, there is no one on the injury report for the Jazz. Trey Lyles is questionable for the Kings. He's actually been playing some key minutes for them the last few games, so it'll be interesting to see if or who replaces him in that rotation if he ends up missing this game. I was actually looking towards the total on this one. I looked at a couple similar situations here. The Kings 2-0 to the under, playing their 3rd game in 4 nights, but not on the back-to-back. The totals were similar too. They had a 238 and a half total. They had a 238 total. Both of them went under by a pretty good margin. When I looked on the Jazz side, that pointed me towards the under. 2-0 to the under on the first leg of back-to-back road to home games. So that travel spot there, it looks like they look ahead, and they typically their offense struggles on that in those spots. So the only way that I could look, because the total is so high, is to the under. I'm not too sure I can back the Kings here either after playing 2 tough games against the Nuggets here, and that come from behind victory. Could be a small letdown spot here. And typically I like to look at the Jazz as dogs, not favorites. And they are the dogs here on the road. So I don't know if I can make any plays on this game either, but the leans would be towards the Jazz and to the under. What are your thoughts on this one? Let's start with you, Nick.
Same as you. This is not a game that I really have circled on my calendar here or anything. It is difficult for sure, but I have a small lean to the Kings here. I just think that the home floor advantage will prove to be the difference maker in this one. The Jazz, they're 19-18. The Kings are 18-15. But Utah's been much better at home. It's just 7-13 on the road. Sacramento's been much better at home. It's 10-7 there. You mentioned Utah comes to Sacramento off back-to-back losses. Most recently, it was a 112-107 setback at Golden State. So, yeah, will the Jazz get caught looking ahead to their game against the Heat tomorrow night? I mean, they absolutely could. It's a much more high-profile game, even though it's not a conference game, a New Year's Eve contest against the Heat. And then on the other end of the court, the Kings, they're coming off the 127-126 home win over Denver. But that was just one night after falling 113-106 to the Nuggets. This is the first meeting of the year between the clubs. And as I said, I don't really have a super strong feeling about this game. But after 3 straight against the spread losses, I just think that this game, I think they're due. I hate using that. But yeah, home court advantage is the difference here for me, and so I'm gonna have a lean on the Kings.
Yeah, what do you think about this one, Matt? I know this is a game with a high total. Typically, you would want to look at props, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think this is one of those games where I don't know if I'll get to the window on the spread for a side for either team, but my best bet is actually a player prop from this game. And for me personally, this is a game that I look to in terms of same game parlay potential. If you follow me on Twitter, I love my same game parlays. We'll have one out tonight, and you basically want high totals. You want close lines, like a -3 spread for the Kings here, and you want some players to build it around. And you got guys like Lauri Markkanen for the Jazz to build around, and got guys like Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox here. But this is a spot where the Jazz travel on the road to face off against the Kings. Kings are 19-18 on the season, and I thought the Jazz are 19-18 on the season, coming off 2 losses in a row to the Spurs and the Warriors. And, this is something we talked about on the last episode. At some point, the Jazz are going to become a fade team. And has it occurred? I don't know. I think it maybe has, losing 2 in a row, Spurs and the Warriors. against the Warriors, it was a great live bet opportunity too. When the Warriors were down, I jumped on that. And now against the Kings, I think it's going to start to crumble here because I think this Kings team is actually pretty strong going forward. I really like their depth, their pace, and what they do down low with Sabonis in terms of rebounding and stuff as well. The Kings are 18-15 on the season, recently coming off that comeback victory over the Denver Nuggets. And in my eyes, they went 1-1 against the Nuggets, but they looked very good in both games there. The Nuggets are a tough team to match up with, especially now that they have Michael Porter Jr. Bones Highland is playing some solid basketball on top of that, coming off the bench. So, to me, those were some impressive games, actually. And when I look at this matchup, there is a huge mismatch, and it's actually down low because the Utah Jazz are the worst team throughout the entire NBA at protecting the paint. They give up the most points per game in the paint on top of that, and there's two guys that come to mind for me. It's De'Aaron Fox, who is an absolute slasher, getting to the basket. He even likes those mid-range floaters, mid-range jumpers, right in the paint, around the paint, stuff like that. And then you got Domantas Sabonis, who is back from his hand injury, playing very well once again, very good around the basket. And, a lot of that is because someone like Kelly Olynyk is guarding you, and he's never been known as a defender. He's more of a stretch five. He's actually really never been relied upon to kind of be in a position like this where he actually has to start majority of the game, getting serious minutes, stuff like that. And then one last guy that you got to think about is Malik Monk. Malik Monk has been playing very, very good basketball. He can slash to the basket. He can pull up from three-point. And that's where I see a lot of this difference. The Sacramento Kings have someone like Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell is one of the best guard defenders, I should say, throughout the entire NBA. And I think he matches up very well against someone like Jordan Clarkson. And if you shut someone down like Jordan Clarkson, or he can help with Mike Conley, he can help with Colin Sexton coming off the bench. So he's very versatile defender and tough for anyone. But if you shut any of those guys down, I don't think the Jazz have the players to turn to like that of the Sacramento Kings with the Kevin Huerters of the world on top of that. The Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes, Davion Mitchell, Keegan Murray. They're very deep at this point in time, and they have a ton of different angles in which they can beat you. And for the Utah Jazz, a team that's not very sound defensively whatsoever, they're one of the top pace teams. They're a top half pace team on top of that, when a team like the Kings is actually fifth in pace. So they like teams who are a little bit faster, can get out and run. So for me, I do think this is a Kings spot. I don't know if I will get to the window with it just because I love the player prop from this game so much. But if I were to pick a side here, it would be the Sacramento Kings.
All right. Well, two Kings against one Jazz there. We'll see how it goes. Did you guys have a look? Did you have a sort of a lean on the total there? Because I don't know. It seems like this is it's steaming up a little bit, which makes me feel like at this point, I think it may be too much. It's above 240 now. I mean, I think it opened at 238.
Yeah, I mean, for me, anytime it gets in that 240 range, and I'm not incredibly confident with it going over, I'm obviously going to lean the under with that, just because so much has to go right with a 242 total. The entire game has to have a blazing fast pace. It has to generally stay very close throughout on top of that, so no team can really pull away from one another. And as we know, it's a -3 spread, so it's expected to stay close. But how many times do we see a -3 spread that ends up a 20-point game in the first or second quarter? It happens all the time in the NBA, especially this season. This season has been very tough to predict in some of these spreads, in terms of some of these over-unders. So for me, I'd be with you, Ron. I think a 242 that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points in a basketball game. And I understand the Jazz and the Kings are two somewhat weaker defensive teams. But, again, a lot has to go right. You have to have that blazing pace throughout the entire game. And, I think the odds are more so in your favor that the game maybe slows down at some point. One of the teams kind of goes in a rut, something along those lines. So I'd be with the under as well.
Makes sense. All right, well, now it's time for the best bets. Let's start with you, Nick. What is your best bet for today's show, and what do you got going on in the on the premium side here?
Well, we're talking about basketball here, but listen, I got tons of football going on, guys. I'm playing with house money in both college football and the NFL this year, and so I'm looking to close out both of those really strong. I have lots of packages up. You can go take advantage of some of those deals that Ronald was giving at the top of the show. SportsMemo always has the best deals going on. And as far as my free play here today, I'm once again looking at the 76ers and Pelicans. I said I was going to look at the total, and we've already touched on this, you guys, and we sort of all agree on this already. I like the under in this one. Both teams have been playing to several higher scoring games of late, but I think that trend will end here tonight. Philadelphia, it's coming off that 116-111 loss to Washington. You know, with players like Joel Embiid and James Harden, you'd think that the 76ers would be one of the top offensive teams in the league. That's not the case. They average 111.7 points per game. That's ranked 21st. Most nights, Philly gets the job done with really good defense. And when it's on offense, it runs its offense mainly through its big man, Joel Embiid, and that means setting up a lot of half-court sets while you're on offense. And usually that means you have to slow the play down for a second, get the ball into Embiid, and get the play going. One thing I'm always looking at is the schedule of each team. Philadelphia, it does have an interesting upcoming schedule. After this, it plays at Oklahoma City tomorrow, and then New Year's Day off before a rematch versus the Pelicans at home on the 2nd. Now, New Orleans, it does average 117.8 points per game. That ranks 3rd. But the Pelicans, they have interestingly seen the total go under the number in 8 of their last 12 as a home favorite in the -1 to -3.5 points range. The Pelicans, they have seen the total go over the number in 4 of their last 5, guys. But in my opinion, all signs point to a much more defensive affair here. So, guys, I think this number is a little high. I'm going under.
All right. So under 229 for Nick there. Matt, let's get to you right now. What is your best bet, and what do you got going on the premium side?
Yeah, so right now, I already have 3 NFL plays loaded. I love this NFL slate this weekend, so definitely going to be hitting that a little bit more going forward. I might end up with like 5 or 6 plays for the NFL slate. And tonight, I already have 1 NBA slate or NBA play loaded. Definitely going to have probably around 4 or 5. Once again, we've been very successful this week. We're 6-0 the past 2 days, 9-4 on the week, and in the best bets, we're 7-1 our last 8, and looking to make it 4 in a row here. So for tonight, the best bet is going to be Domantas Sabonis over 41.5 points, rebounds, assists. And this is a spot where Domantas Sabonis and the Sacramento Kings face off against the Utah Jazz. And you guys heard me talk about this a little bit before, but this is actually a number that Sabonis has hit now in 6 straight games. And again, I believe it to be a great spot for Sabonis, who is going against one of the worst overall defenses in the NBA in the Utah Jazz, ranking 27th. And they also run the 13th highest pace throughout the NBA. And more importantly, like I said before, this Jazz team gives up the #1 most points in the paint to anyone in the NBA. And a lot of that to me means Domantas Sabonis, and it means Domantas Sabonis in points or Sabonis in assists. He is a very, very good facilitator from that 5 position. He's also someone who's very good at getting that basketball and using it as an outlet pass, okay? The Utah Jazz actually ranked 27th in overall rebounds and 22nd in offensive rebounding, okay? So they're a team that gives up rebounds on top of that. And again, I think that's exactly what Sabonis does. He loves to get that basketball. The Kings run the 5th highest pace throughout the entire NBA. He gets it, he outlets it, and they slash to the basket. So there's a ton of assist opportunity for Sabonis in this game. And obviously, I think there's a lot of point opportunity for Sabonis in this game. On the season, he's averaging 18.6 points, 12.4 rebounds, and 6.7 assists. And honestly, I think he goes over, maybe all of those numbers tonight. I really do feel good about this spot because when you're matched up with against someone like Kelly Olynyk, who really can't do much on the defensive end of things, I really do think Sabonis is going to have his way. And then you see guys like Malik Monk. He had a 30-point game against the Nuggets. He's someone who can spot up from the outside. De'Aaron Fox slashing to the basket on top of that. When Sabonis is backing down, a quick cutter, a quick bounce pass. That's something Sabonis is very good on top of that. And then another thing is, last time Sabonis faced the Utah Jazz, he put up 42 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. So yes, he was with the Indiana Pacers at that point in time. But again, he still likes playing the Utah Jazz. And I would actually argue that this Kings team has far more weapons that can help to benefit Sabonis than that of that Pacers team at that point in time as well. Again, outside shooters like Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes once in a blue moon goes off on top of that. So you have guys who can really benefit Sabonis as well. So I really like his spot here at over 41.5 points, rebounds, assists. Looking to make it 4 best bets in a row and 8-1 in our last 9.
All right. Yeah, I know you've been killing those props and also the best bet section. And for me, I'm going to go with the Warriors Blazers here to the under. Warriors are 11-6 to the under at home this season, averaging a combined score of 228.7. The total tonight is 232.5. They've also been going under in 7 straight home games. They're also 3-0 to the under as home dogs with an average combined score of 227 in those games there. The Blazers, they've been more of an under team on the road, 12-8 to the under so far this season on the road, including 9-4 to the under with a higher total, with a total of greater than 220. They've gone under in 3 of their last 4 games, and I think it really has to do with their schedule. They've had to travel for 8 straight games now. Travel fatigue is starting to kick in for these guys, and it's affecting them mainly on the offensive side of the ball. They had 6 straight road games. They had 1 home game. They're on the road again here. Then they go back home on after the new year, and then more road games. So this is a bad spot. This is a bad schedule here for the Blazers moving forward for at least for the next couple of weeks. And I think it continues tonight. I think they've gone under their team total in 4 of their last 6 games as well. So for me, I think a lot of the things combined with how the Warriors do at home, how the Blazers do on the road, as well as their schedule, everything is to me is just pointing to the under here. So I'm taking the under 232.5. I don't agree with where the total is moving. That's my best bet for today. This will be a premium play as well. Like I said, guys, this is a tough time here. I'll be transparent. I'm on a losing streak, and all I could do is give you guys the information that I use to cap my games. You guys see my process. You guys hear everything that I have to say in my analysis. If you agree or don't agree, you could either fade me or tell me. It's up to you guys. I can't control what the players do and what the teams do. I can only control what I look at and how I analyze games. With that said, man, I'm hoping to close this year out on a good note. Hopefully we get back on track. Last year, I was on the negative side going into the new year as well. Ended up in the top towards the top of the leaderboard once again. I am SportsMemo's #1 NBA capper in profit over the last 2 years. So I believe in my process. I believe I'm going to get over this hump, and it's on you guys to believe in me or not. That's what I got to say here to close out the show. Nick and Matt, appreciate you guys for joining me here. We'll see you guys back on Monday. Good luck with everybody's action. Until then, peace.
Peace, y'all.